Hey, what is up everybody? Blades for here, and today for you guys another video of Persona 5X. Inside today's video, guys, we're going to be going ahead and doing the comparison, or at least the one-to-one of S Closer to Haru. Now, this has been a question that's been going around quite a lot on which to invest in, and so I'm going to try and do this video in a way that's going to help all of you guys decide on which team you really want to go for. And even if you already have your mind made up, you might can find out some things about the other team or even your own team that you never did just not know beforehand. So without further ado, we're going to get straight into the video. Hopefully you guys enjoy it. Hit that like button, hit the subscribe button, and let's go. So when it comes down to both Haru and S Closer, they're both new characters that are coming down the line, especially on the global end of things, and they've already gotten some decent buffs on the TW side as well. Both of these characters aren't really bad, they're extremely good, just it comes down to which is going to be a little bit more helpful for your account in the long run. So how I'm going to do this video is we're going to structure it by what you guys really need to get, right? We're going to go over their brief details. We're then going to go over their awarenesses, their weapons, their artifacts, and their skills, really showing exactly like what is a necessary need on this character, what isn't, and then going over the teams. Now, I would provide gameplay. The only reason why I don't want to right now is because I think you guys can see the difference between Haru and, of course, my Closer. Obviously, you know which one has more dupes into them, so I don't think that would be a fair comparison. So we're going to try and explain it to our best abilities. Let's get to it. Starting with S Closer here, she is a character that is extremely good. She comes out immediately after Cord here as our 2.1 update on global, most likely, right? Now, with this in your back of your head, right, that means that it's very close that this character is going to be dropping. The good part about her is she is the first AoE blessed DPS and the first DPS inside of global itself. So if you guys have been having some trouble, if you've been like needing some help there, you finally will have this character to use. And the good part about her is she really isn't that hard to build, or at least to build herself. She consumes a lot of her own HP, so you really just need a ton of HP on her, and that's more or less going to be the thing that she just revolves around. After you have the HP set that you really just need to have on her, or at least the amount of HP that you need on her, you're just able to do whatever you really want to. Invest everything into DPS and you pretty much got that down pat. So I think that's all you really got to know for this character, and it's not the hardest thing to at least sit down and notice. So starting off with the first thing that we want to break down is the awarenesses. Is any of them needed for this character? And honestly, my opinion, I don't say it really is a need here. No character truly does need this need their awarenesses, but there are some that do benefit off of it. S Closer, if I'm being totally honest to you guys, doesn't need any of these. She's pretty darn good at where she is right now, and I don't think that a awareness change is going to help her out too much. In all honesty, the only thing that was really good for me was just getting the A6, and that was just because, hey, A6 allowed me to spam as much as I wanted to with the midsummer, and upgraded, allowing me to deal some extra damage. If you wanted to invest into another awareness, I think the highest I would technically go is the skill, or the A1, mainly because it buffs her main midsummer state, in which you're able to gain yourself some crit rates and an additional amount of crit damage. It also makes the main skill, which is the skill 3 Wave Chaser, get a cooldown by 1 whole turn, which is really darn nice. If you wanted to get that awareness, that would probably be the only one I recommend for people, especially if you wanted to do her optimally. And I think that's all you really do need to this character. It's not a need, but hey, it's one of the things that if you want it, go for it. It's fairly helpful, but it's not a must-have type of deal. And I think a lot of people are going to benefit off of knowing this. But going off of their awarenesses here, and we've already explained exactly you don't really need it, we're going to go over the weapon. Now, the weapon is where things get a little bit murky, and the reason why I say this for her is because I generally do think this weapon is needed, and this is mainly because when it's a DPS factors I do see as more of the you want to get their weapons here, because they can hardcore change the kit themselves. With her, this is one of the actual interesting values. She does change her kit with her 5-star weapon itself. It increases not only just the blessed damage, which is something that's normal with some of this, it's just like a regular thing, but where things kind of change here is in the 5-star weapon. She increases her midsummer state crit damage. She also increases the amount of sunlight stacks that you get, which allow you to deal more skill damage in the long run. This is a huge one. If it was up to me, I would say this 5-star weapon is definitely a must, mainly because, hey, you want your DPS to be optimally used. You want to make sure they have everything part of their kit, and this 5-star weapon does involve a lot more of our kit than it normally would. The 4-star weapon still does decent damage here, but it's just not really worth using because all it is an attack increase, and in part of the 4-star weapon you can only use for 1 turn, which is this one, being that it says you can receive healing in the midsummer state and it will increase our damage. Well, if she's the last character going, you're going to already heal before then, so it's not going to help you in that standpoint. It will only help you for the turn after, so it's morally going to be for like turn 2 and 3, meaning getting the stacks for your damage buff with the 4-star weapon is going to take a little bit longer. So I would suggest, if you just want to straight up just get the character done, the 5-star is a kind of like a mandatory pull in my opinion, but that's honestly up to you guys on that one. I definitely say get this weapon. You don't need to dupe it out, of course. It's extremely good and it does change the kit. So now the next thing that we got to go over is the artifacts. Her artifacts is straight up a plus for her. You don't really need to go crazy in depth with it. Make sure she just has a ton of HP, so HP substats are going to be at top of priority. Get some crit damage, some crit rate, you're good, you're golden. As for the main stats, they're not really too hard or niche main stats. You either can go with attack percentage or damage bonus. I went with damage bonus because I went with an attack percent planet piece here, and then crit damage or crit rate on this. I would suggest a lot of you guys to go for crit damage if you want to get the most out of this character, even if she isn't like max duped. You definitely want to go for crit damage. Just put some crit rate on the substats themselves and just go at it. Really, I don't think you need much here. The crit rate itself is going to slowly build up with her future units, so it's not really a thing that you got to worry about too much. For the main card here, or the main universe card, this is also in global currently. This is the what is it called, the Resolve and Virtue set here, where it's going to more likely increase her damage based on her HP. So if you get the cap of at least 12k, I think it was, or maybe 11k, you then get the, oh yeah, right here, 12k. You'll then end up getting a cap or a 30% increase on your damage. So every time you get to that cap, or either once you have this cap, that is a permanent buff. It's always going to be something easy, less likely you have to change anything. It is her only set, so she does not have to build any other characters. As for her actual skills, you only have to build 3 of these guys, which is going to be the skill 3, main priority, the highlight, and the skill 1. These two are going to really go hand in hand, because after you use the skill 3, you got to wait a turn or two to get Wave Chaser back. So once you use the skill 3, you have to then use something else. You're not always going to have your highlight, so if you want it, the priority to get technically could be 3-1 and then highlight. You would just immediately use your skill 3, next round use your skill 1, all right, next round skill 3, and keep going back and forth. This is going to be your main damage rotation. You're not ever going to use the skill 2. I only increased it because of course I wanted the gear factor, or at least the gear rating itself, but the skill 2 is very nichely used. I think we use it sometimes in her OG guild boss, and it was like really rare because we were trying to make sure we didn't kill too quickly. But other than that, you're really just going to use the skill 3 and skill 1. This character is incredibly good, and you don't really have to do too much with her, but you guys can see a little bit of the investment. Now her team is probably the best thing about her. She definitely doesn't have to build much when it comes down to her team. Her team is very easy to build here, and if I'm being honest, it's probably the easiest one to go with. On global, it'll look something like this, or either if you're using Phoebe, will look something like this. If you have Phoebe duped, this is more likely going to be the best thing that you can use. Nothing too hard to do, but if you want more of a premium side of things, which does happen later on, she will end up changing. Marion gets moved out and S Moko gets moved in. Main reason for this, because S Moko recently got a buff, and oh, I accidentally put in the wrong character, my bad. But S Moko recently got a buff that allowed her to deal damage bonus too. So if you're able to have the overheal, which S Moko can easily do, and then get the damage bonus, then you would end up replacing Marion. So this is on the optimal standpoint, so your team would end up looking something like this in the future with the side of Futaba, and I think this would probably be the best one to really go for. So if it was up to me and you want a little bit more damage out of it, you could very well take out a supporter, put on Howler here, because then you have a debuffer, a supporter, and then your DPS, allowing you to deal even more damage. These are different teams that you can really invest into, but on global, the best one to have, of course, is going to be the Marion and Leon combo. If you don't have Leon, or I mean, if you don't have Marion, well, then you're kind of out of luck for this team. You very well could use Morgana, because he does deal some decent healing, so it could get you the overheal that you're looking for, but it's going to be kind of hard to still use even at that point. The teams themselves, though, pretty easy to build up, nothing too hard to really do. All of their card sets are pretty simple, So this is a plus for the team. Now that we finally went over everything with S Closer, let's go ahead and take a look at Haru. Now Haru's in this section where she's really good. She's insanely nice. The only problem with her, starting with the awareness, is I highly advise you guys to get that A1. That A1 is a necessary need in my opinion. And that's mainly just because with the A1, we're able to take advantage over the sight factor that she does have. The A1 itself does a, what is it called? An initial attack, kind of like a follow-up, but it's at the beginning of the round. And this initial attack is going to allow you to deal some decent damage. It also increases her attack by 8% up to 24%. And in the long run, it will increase her crit rate for her gunfire, which is her primary thing inside of her entire kit, by 6% up to 18%. Pretty darn good to have here, and is one of the few things that will automatically allow you to try and get a sight on the enemy. With the focus aim that she uses, which is the skill 1, it does have a chance of proccing a sight, or I think it's called like target mark or free aim, one of those two here inside the global version here. But when she does have those on the enemy, she can deal more side damage. This A1 could very well help you proc that, so it's probably a good thing to go ahead and invest in. Is it a mandatory thing? For me, yes, but for most people, no. So if you wanted to think of it just for yourself, A0 is perfectly fine. A1 is where you truly are good and you don't have to go any further. As for the weaponry, this is a must. Unlike S Closer, right? Where I was saying, okay, you maybe do need your 5-star weapon. I do find my DPSs as a must for them. This one is a must. There is no ifs, ands, or buts about it. 4-star weapon is pretty darn decent. It does help you out with the attack, and then of course it increases your elemental accuracy rate by a little bit. But for what you need on your caps, and if you really want to deal a lot more damage, this 5-star weapon is going to be worth it. And it's because it increases your elemental accuracy rate by 36%, while also increasing the attack that you deal on an enemy who has aim point, aka that free aim thing I was talking about. It increases that damage, the side damage, by a nice 24%. And every time we use one of her gimmicks, which is called a modification, she increases her attack by 34% for that turn. So this weapon is extremely good. It's one of the reasons that Haru, when she first came out, was absolutely insane. And after she got her rework, it got even crazier because they lowered Haru's amount of EHR, and so you can easily hit that cap without actually sweating your butt off here. This weapon is a must-have. Please get this weapon because then it gives you way more leeway on the team in the future, which we'll talk about. Insanely good weapon though. As for a card set, she's in the same way like S Closer, where you don't have to really change her card set, but unlike S Closer where you just need a ton of HP and you can just go for the basic values if you want to, her card set is a little bit more tricky, or at least a little different here. There's a few different variants that you very well can do. This moon stat is always going to be the damage bonus side because she does need damage bonus in her kit, and then since you're going to have the Saturn piece as attack, it's not going to hurt you too much. Where things can get confusing is going to be this piece right here. I currently use a crit damage piece, and that's because like my crit rate is already really high. Based on the navigators and other characters I use that are A6, I'm able to then use her set effect as more of a crit damage rather than a crit rate card. Now most people are going to be using a crit rate card, or either if you just want to get a little bit ballsy, a crit damage card. The crit rate card is the primary one that you guys really want to go ahead and look into using, mainly because she does need that crit rate, and we won't have a lot of characters that give off the crit rate right now. So that's going to be very helpful. Now, if you were one of the souls who decided not to get the 5-star weapon, you now have to recuperate on not getting this 5-star weapon, meaning the only other option that you can use for this star is the elemental accuracy card, being EHR. Elemental accuracy is probably the most needed one for her if you're just deciding, screw it, I don't want to go ahead and use this character, or either I don't want to to the weapon. You're gonna need one of these. If you do not have this card on, she will not be usable. So if you aren't going for that weapon, this is a mandatory value. No matter how you dice it, no matter how you slice it, you're gonna need this card. If you don't have like Tomoko, but you have the 5-star weapon, this card is maybe a 50-50. It honestly just comes down to your EHR values or your elemental accuracy values, but it's still probably going to be at the front of your site here. But other than that, the card is pretty easy to build. Both sets are in the global right now, so you can very well farm them. So try to get to it if you really can. Now for the actual talents that she needs to look at forward. She's just like S Closer, where you want to get the skill 1, skill 3, and the ultimate here. All of these are really good either way you dice it. and you're really going to be focusing down the skill 3, skill 1, and highlight probably as your primaries, or maybe skill 3, highlight, and 1 as your primary ones, to go in that order, mainly just because all of these skills are going to be helpful. The skill 1 is always going to be proc first. That's going to give you the aim that I'm telling you guys about, and that's going to allow you to deal way more damage. The skill 3 itself is going to be your major AoE damage, and to get you up one of your stacks or your modules before you end up using your actual gun attack, dealing a ton of damage. So either way, they're all important. You're going to want to have all of these here, so get them up. The skill 2, don't get this up. It's just like S-Closer, where we don't use it really. I just got it up for just rating. This is not necessary. Do not do this if you want to. Now, where things get a little bit interesting with this character is the team. The team is what makes a lot of people kind of shy away from Haru, and it's because on global, it's how close a lot of these characters are going to be. So for Haru here, you're going to want to have as her most optimal team, and which is why I'm going to try to structure this around. For our most optimal team, you're going to want this, right? This team right here, or either you will want Phoebe here as long as she's duped, because then you have the 3 size immediately, taking advantage over our chalices. You get the turn again with our cord, using our highlight multiple times, and this is going to help you out overall with the amount of buffs that you do have. This is probably going to be the team that everyone's going to be using with Haru for a very long time, until later on where you really want to be optimal in the future. That's where she drastically changes. Now for this, technically you don't need Futaba. Now I know a lot of folks are going to be like, what do you mean you don't need Futaba? Futaba is amazing. Yes, Futaba is good for this character. You're going to use her quite a lot if you decide to swap up team a little bit here. But the reason why I say you don't really need Futaba here is because we don't really need that weakness damage anymore. At that point, we just need as much damage as possible buffing, and Phoebe does provide this damage. If you really want to provide or go into the future for what you really want to look for with a Haru team, that would be more likely Anj. One, because the pin that she does really like to have, that just allows her to deal more damage to an enemy with high defensive stats. So I mean, like, it's going to allow you to have some fun. 2, because her team totally does change. Her team, based on like the long jeopardy, it will change dramatically. And when I mean dramatically, I mean Cord isn't even in this team. She ends up getting thrown to the side, and we start using a debuffer. This debuffer is named Toy. She's in the long run going to be very, very good. You're going to want to have this character. She's an AoE debuffer that also has some sustainability factors. And then the supporter that Haru is going to be using will not be a healer. Yeah, shocking, right? So this supporter, since we ended up changing up Haru's what's it called, her stats, and now she can technically freely hit those stat markers without Smoko, you could be a little bit more optimal in the future. This optimality is going to be with either Turbo, being the one who gives you another shield on you and some more pin like buffs and stuff like that. Since we have a whole pin related team, pretty much this is going to be very, very helpful. Or you can go ahead and go for just way more damage with Wind. Wind Vast is going to be very, very helpful in the future, and by using her A1, this could be very good for you guys to use. Now this is in the long future for my global players, so this is like teams that you can look forward to. The first team I showed is the one that you guys are really going to be looking to. This is why I say Haru is a little bit on the more difficult side, because if you want the most out of her when she first comes out, Smoko is kind of a must summon. Reason being, because you get all of those DPS markers that she wants, get a really good healer out the deal, nice follow-up of the attack healer as well, and this allows you to just really go ham with Haru. Though in the future, if we really want to actually pay attention to this, it does change dramatically and has different variants. So you could very well decide, hey, I don't want to Smoko, but then you're going to be a little bit behind when she first comes out, and in the long run you will be ahead, but right now you'll be kind of behind. So it's a little tricky on how this character does work, making the teams a little bit difficult for this character. Now, on which to invest in, if we're looking for long jeopardy, our girl S-Closer, as good as she is, and I really do love her, I have her A6, and I don't even use her that much, even with the A6. She's an amazing character, but you're not really going to have her most places. I think she lasted in Guild Boss for a little bit of time, and after a while, you weren't using her. And in fact, I think we used Mesa at a certain point. If you had Mesa duped with that, you were using him to deal the damage on what's it called, S-Closer's Guild Boss. So there was not really a need to really use her anymore, which was a weird deal with that. So I mean, Low jeopardy wise, if you just want her for general use, she's your girl to go for, but she more or less is a character that you could very well decide to skip if you wanted to. Now, I'm a Motaha enjoyer anyway, so I mean, like, she reminds me of Chie, so I pull. I don't know about you guys, but I pull. But if you're looking for optimization, she'd probably be the character that you want to pull for. Now, the other one on the side here is Haru. Haru is definitely an optimized pick where a lot of you guys probably should pull for if you're looking for a really good AoE DPS. And another reason for this is she's our only side DPS. Unlike the blessed side where we'll eventually have a single target blessed DPS, we don't have any single targets or another AoE side DPS just yet. So this is our only one that's available, making her even more so needed. Her team is a little bit more confusing and some of their banners are a little closer than we like, but it is extremely good to use this character. If you're looking for anyone who's optimal for damage wise, even for multiple patches, she comes back in SOS, guild boss even to this day. So I mean, like, it is very well worth getting this character. I want to say she's probably in the top 4 for the AoE DPSs. So if you guys really wanted to invest into a unit, this would be the one to invest in. Hopefully this video was very helpful on either just telling you about what you wanted to do or even just, hey, solidifying if you wanted either character anyways, because I'm not trying to steer anyone away from their teams. Both teams are insanely good, and depending on the player, hey, you can use them whatever you want to use them. We're here to have fun. So at the end of the day, pick who you want to pick. If you were really looking for an incentive or a person to really tell you who's better to pull for, I would say pull for the Haru. But hey, that's just me. Those banners are really close together, so keep that in mind. But thank you guys for watching, and peace on out.